This morning, we commemorate the brilliant Jewish scholar and composer, Dr. Ben Steinberg. Dr. Steinberg, one of the greatest and most widely commissioned of the modern Jewish composers, died several months ago. It was a great loss to all who love synagogue music. He believed that the merging of chazanut, traditional cantorial singing, and Jewish music modes with modern harmonies was essential for meaningful Jewish musical expression. He melded the past and the present together to help us remember who we are and where we've come from. A bit about where Ben came from. He was born in 1930 in a traditional household in Winnipeg, Canada. Ben's father was an Orthodox cantor, and Ben sang in their Toronto synagogue and on tour with his father from a very young age. He was 4. He began to sing as a cantor when he was 8 years old and was called the Little Chazan. Alas, his voice changed at the age of 12, ending his singing and concert career. So Ben conducted his father's synagogue choir instead. He was educated at Toronto's Royal Conservatory of Music and the University of Toronto, going on to teach at the college level and to become music director at several Toronto synagogues. But Ben's main love was composing music for the synagogue. He eventually became the composer in residence at Toronto's Temple Sinai and traveled all over the world, masterfully performing and lecturing about the beauties of Jewish music. The use of the choir in synagogue music was essential to him since his days of singing for his father at Sha'arei Shomayim. He wrote, "The choir illuminates the meanings of prayer texts, injecting into them understanding and discernment, as well as an emotional component that surpasses mere words." We were lucky enough to have Ben Steinberg as our Emanu-El Scholar in Residence in April of 2008, and he got to work with our phenomenal choir. We performed 2 of his complete services, plus sermon and song music, with organ, string quartet, and woodwind quartet. It was a glorious musical Shabbat. Ben was very, very appreciative of our amazing choir. He said, "I've enjoyed conducting your fine choir and instrumentalists. It's a little like another choral conductor saying to me, 'Sure, go ahead, take my Maserati out for a spin.'" To Steinberg, the main purpose of synagogue music was to emphasize meanings in prayer texts. And this is what he did so exquisitely. He painted the liturgical text with music, enhancing and beautifying the meaning of the words. You heard some of Steinberg's music earlier in this morning's service, the Shema, and later the choral Al Shlosha Devarim in the Torah service. The choir and I will sing several more of his lovely lyrical compositions for you. First, an excerpt from a solo concert piece, L'Kol Zaman, To Everything There Is a Season, from Ecclesiastes. This piece is about time, one of life's most powerful forces that gets more and more respect from us as we age. It's a reflective piece, set in Hebrew and English. The text is profound. The accompaniment contains an opening phrase that Steinberg wrote to represent the passage of time. And after a dialogue is carried on between the singer and the keyboard, it's that phrase that returns to conclude the music because ultimately, as Steinberg writes, in music as in life, it is time that prevails. Yet by the way we live our lives, we can affect our own existence and that of others. A time for birth and a time for death, a time to plant and a time to uproot the planted, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to tear and a time to build. In a short excerpt from his setting of Psalm 121, Esa Enai, Steinberg uses the uplifting melodic line to paint the text. Listen for the leaps upward on Esa Enai el Heharim, I lift my eyes to the mountains, and Ezri Me'im Adonai, my help comes from God. You can hear the yearning and the hope for divine connection in the music. The choir is singing underneath the cantorial line, providing supportive modal harmonies. Steinberg's Oseh Shalom, which we often sing at Emanu-El, demonstrates his talent for long, flowing, beautiful melodies. The organ underneath this gentle choral prayer for peace provides traditional Jewish chordal progressions using the Adonai Malach mode, fused into a modern chordal structure. In other words, a lot of intricate harmonies are moving together seamlessly to form a gorgeous organ solo, which Jack, our organist, is playing now, then a choral meditation. We can share in the feelings of tranquility and hope that are expressed in the text. Lastly, here is the graceful and sweet Shalom Rav, the most well-known of Steinberg's pieces. It is considered a modern classic. In 1973, Dr. Steinberg was commissioned to write a Friday evening service according to the traditional musical modes, and all the rest of that service's music complied with that requirement. But Shalom Rav, which came to Ben quickly and completely, does not conform to the prayer modes. He was planning on leaving it out of the service, but his wife convinced him that it was too beautiful to omit, and the whole world should hear it. So he included Shalom Rav, and it instantly became his most beloved work. The Cantor and choir sing in a call and response style, one of Steinberg's favorite techniques, then merge together to create a beautiful and serene feeling of peace. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Ve'olam. Tahu melech adon lechol ha-shalom. Ben Steinberg had an encyclopedic knowledge of Hebrew liturgy, choral technique and music composition. He had a talent for lyrical, lovely melodies that he arranged skillfully and which reflected the brilliance, deep kindness, and sweetness of the man himself. I admired him and cherished him as both a teacher and a human being. Ben enriched synagogue music for decades. He knew where he came from, and he brought us along to where he wanted Jewish music to go. We happily followed. His memory and his music will always be a blessing to the world. Shabbat Shalom.